KrickeTune, the evolved form of Gen 4's early route Pokemon Kricketot. This otherwise unassuming Pokemon wouldn't have any major redeeming factors if it weren't for one thing. That sweet, sweet melody you hear whenever you encounter one. The KrickeTune cry is one of the most famous ones in the Pokemon universe. It really puts the tune in KrickeTune. But what if we made a tune out of the tune? As someone who's been producing music for a little over 7 years at this point, I decided to turn this adorable little bug into an absolute banger of a tech house track. So to start off, we need some... For the drums, we start off with a basic kick, one that has some good punch and low end to it to get that crowd moving. Next, we add the groove with some claps, hi-hats, and other random percussion throughout. Finally, we add some rides just to give a little bit of variety in the second half of the drop. Now that the drums are done, we can move on to the... For our bass, we want something that's simplistic, yet bouncy enough to get a dance floor moving. For this, I created this pattern. I also created a second pattern that comes in later on throughout the song, just to add a little more variety. I used Serum to make my bass patch. For processing, all I did was add some EQs to roll off the high end on the bass, as well as clean it up a little bit. I added a little bit of compression using OTT, and added sidechain so that the bass doesn't clash with the kick. These other bottom effects are for automations throughout the track. Alright, so now that we have the bass complete, now it's time for the... For the synths, we don't want to do anything too crazy, just enough to make the track interesting. Our first main synth is this bass-like sound. I added a few different patterns to create interest throughout the track. This bass lead was also made in Serum. For its processing, all I did was some EQ to cut out the lows and brighten it up, as well as compression with OTT and sidechain. In the second drop of the track, we have this little beep synth that plays throughout. This synth makes the second drop stick out more versus the first, and it builds onto to create a more distinct sound. This synth was also created in Serum. For the processing on this synth, I added an EQ to cut out the highs and add some clarity, compressed it with OTT, used Serum effects to widen the sound, and added a filter for some automations in the buildup. With the synths done, all that's left on the drop is the... Being that this is a track made using the KrickeTune cry, we want it to be the focal point of everything. I took the second half of KrickeTune's cry and used it as a siren that would play periodically throughout the drop. The rest of the cries also use more as diversity in the synth section. For the processing, I added some EQs to cut out the lows and clean it up just a bit, distorted it with Camel Crusher, and then put some reverb and delay on it to make it sound more interesting. Now that we have the main elements of the drop done, all that we need to do is create an intro, build up, and breakdown to kind of tie the drops up together. And with that, our track is complete. All that's left to do now is press play. thanks everyone for watching. You can find this full track for free on SoundCloud, Bandcamp, and right here on YouTube. I'll see you all in the next video.